What is up, Whale family, and welcome to the debut, the premiere episode of Hang Time, where we chop it up about NBA Top Shot, the market, fantasy league, and break it down with tips and tricks and insights. I have a special guest today for our very first episode ever, Guster420 from the Burn podcast. Guster, how are you?
Dude, I'm super excited to be here, man. Thank you for letting me join on. I've loved Swish from the beginning of it, and when you all at the Whale community have jumped on board, I got super stoked to learn more about your community. And the more and more I learn about it, the more and more I love it, even more than just Swish. But for this episode with Swish, I'm excited to kind of break it down with you.
Yeah, awesome. And I wish I had a hat and a Celtics jersey to match you. I might have to throw a bag in the background and look as macho and awesome as you, but I don't at the moment.
Well, I will cut you off there. And this isn't a Celtics jersey. This is a Cream City jersey.
No. I saw what yours is. I'm saying mine would be a C's jersey because I am a Boston guy. Just getting that. So we started real good here. Put down where our alliances are for the basketball team, but that's okay. It's all love. There's no big rivalry there. It's not like it's a Lakers Celtics thing or like some kind of heated thing.
Well, to be honest, Nytmare, I am actually a Celtics fan, but when I first jumped into NBA Top Shot, one of the first moments I grabbed was this Giannis Series 1 moment from just like a base pack. And that guy was ultimately, Giannis, going to be my franchise player for Swish. And so we'll kind of talk about, how that functions here in a little bit. But I think that's the opportunity that Swish provides is that you can kind of take your moments that you get in packs or on the marketplace and get to put them to work as your general manager. And, I was super excited to get Giannis because now I get to roll him out every single week. I have his jersey to boot. And, I feel a kind of a certain kinship to that moment.
Definitely. That's one of the beauties of Fantasy League. And I know that within our community, we have a lot of people that have been active in Whale and involved in NFTs and kind of came into Top Shot that way, but they weren't necessarily basketball fans or they weren't necessarily involved in fantasy before that. So, real quick, guys, fantasy is awesome because even if you didn't have a vested interest in the game before, or you did and your team's not doing too well, or you're just looking to learn, it gives you other things to enjoy from keeping track of the sport or checking in on the stats and things of that nature. Or like Guster just mentioned, finding some players that you dig and watching how they can put up points for you. So there's a lot of cool aspects to it. And part of our purpose here is to really, help everybody understand, hey, what's going on with Top Shot? It's really explosive right now. It's blowing up. A lot of opportunity, both from an investment perspective and also fun gamification, playing fantasy, doing cool stuff. And with the Swish League within our community, we could have some rivalry in some games within ourselves and earn Whale while we're doing it. We have a very generous prize pool, $1,000 per week, just if you're a Dolphin holder. And we'll talk more about the nuance of fantasy, but Swish makes it easy, really, really, really easy. But before we even go down that path, I just wanted to say that Hang Time was actually given to me as kind of a placeholder for the show, and I said that's perfect. I'm not even going to change it because it was one of the best arcade basketball games ever. It came slightly after NBA Jam. I think there was some kind of changing of the license or whatever, but it was basically NBA Jam plus you could make your own player. So super arcadey, cartoonish, shooting from half court like my game in real life, only you could also make yourself and put it in the game. So I thought Hang Time was cool. We'll stick with that. And some people that are old school gamers may remember Hang Time. But let's talk Top Shot. Top Shot, what is it? If you're on this podcast, if you're on this stream, you certainly know what NBA Top Shot is. But just in case there's anyone tuning in for the first time, essentially they've taken the concept of collectibles, sports card collectibles, and put them on the blockchain in the NFT format and made it seamless to the end user. So people that aren't as used to using MetaMask and aren't used to going through the crypto route can simply take out their credit card, buy something that they think is cool, and then have and watch the value scale and trade and all kinds of cool things that you can do with standard collectibles. Only now you don't have to worry about wear and tear. You don't have to worry about authenticity. There's a lot of great things about it. And I think it's particularly important to the NFT space because on a greater scale, what it's doing is bringing in people from outside the sphere. It's bringing in the everyday man that doesn't know anything about NFTs, and they're becoming part of this bigger and better ecosystem.
No doubt, man. I mean, one of those people is absolutely me. I had no idea what an NFT was before NBA Top Shot. I made that simple connection of like, oh, like this is a trading card, but just in video digitized form. And it made a lot of sense to me. And the beauty for me is that it's opened my eyes up to the variety of different opportunities that lie in this industry. I love the fact that you can go on the marketplace as you're showing and buy and sell moments that you either want or want to unload. It gives you a kind of an instant price feedback that I love, and you just get lost in like just kind of surfing for moments, like seeing which one, like, do I like this Rui Hachimura one? I personally kind of dig this one a little bit better than the Cool Cats assist. But the opportunities are endless, and it opens up for like even more platforms like Swish to kind of build on top of this kind of basic understanding.
Right. And there's a lot of nuance to it. These are actually moments. So instead of a picture like you would get in a traditional trading card, what they've done is they've captured video clips that are cool and encapsulated them as the tradable entity. So you could have a sick dunk on someone, a game-winning shot. You can have some moments that aren't that great either, right? And it all plays a role in the value along with the traditional stuff you get with trading cards, like serial numbers, if you match a jersey number, who else is in the moment. There's a lot of nuance to it, but the point is it's really emerging tech. So it's pretty cool how it's married and kind of enhanced what we traditionally knew as trading cards. And the market's just exploded. Like the value's absolutely blown up. The whale vault, if we go to evaluate market and take a look at what what whale actually holds, we're looking at, depending on the day, $55 to $75 million worth of cards.
And there's multiple vaults in there. It's not just limited to 1 and 2. There's a whole series of whale vaults, and I'm excited about the opportunities that lie with all those moments.
Yeah, I certainly wish I could have all of them to play with in my fantasy league, but that's not the way it's working out so far. But with that kind of value, people are taking notice, right? Like sure. Everybody is tweeting, talking about it, live streaming. Shaq was talking about it from the broadcast booth the other night, right? So the players themselves are trying to get involved and buy. So we're really at the beginning stages of this, and it should only get bigger. I was actually on Clubhouse the other day, kind of tooling around, looking at some different things, and there was rooms with nearly 1,000 people in there.
Yeah.
Talking as experts on this market, and they didn't even have the name of what it was, right? It said NBA Top Shop, right? But it just goes to show you, these people are like, we need to get in there and talk about it because this is what's moving and shaking things. So there's big money, there's a lot of fun, and we're really at the beginning stages of it. So an exciting time to get involved and do anything with it.
The last thing I'll say, Nytmare, about kind of like the introduction to Top Shot is that whenever I speak to someone about this who's older than me, really difficult time getting their head around it. Whenever I speak to someone younger than me, they already get it right away. Like no explanation needed. They go right to the price points, right to the secondary tools as to identifying where maybe the alpha might lie in some of these moments.
Yeah, and I think that that's just a matter of time. Traditionalists are always going to be, resistant to change. But I think the thing that helps it is, the traditional collectibles market right now is on fire too. So it's really a perfect storm. I mean, we got people flipping Pokemon for $500,000 per Charizard, right? I know someone personally. So this is the perfect time for this to come. At the same time, NFTs are exploding. So, it's definitely right. And the market just got even crazier last week, right? We had the premium, the metallic gold limited editions that dropped. which was sick. I think they had 11,000 packs, and there was 200,000 people in a queue to try to get it.
Wild.
I didn't get one. Did you?
No, I was like, luckily getting number 42,000 in the queue, and nowhere near where I needed to be.
Yeah, so 5% odds to snag that. Shout out to Ed on the Discord. Ed did get a pack.
Nice.
Pulled a gold Giannis.
Wow, nice. That's a good pull.
Yeah, definitely. I think he just recently got involved too. So awesome. I was psyched. I let out a big Ric Flair woo in my office, and my wife was like, what's going on? So definitely shout out to Ed. And then we also had on Saturday, the queues have been getting crazy, right? Like even just to get a base pack when they're doing these test drops, now the queues are like 70,000 people to get 2,500 packs. So they did a pre-order the first time.
Dude, I was so frustrated about the pre-order because, you go in there right away, ready to get your pack. And I was like 30,000 something. And, I had about like 2 hours before life, called my name, and, you can't just be sitting behind a computer, and you can't flip from your computer to your phone. So I had to jump out of line to get back in it before the time, kind of queued out on me. And so when you jumped back in line, it was like 150,000 or whatever. And so after like 7 hours, I got my pack. So hopefully time served, factors into what moments come in that pack.
Yeah, time served. That I lucked out because I set it up and got a dumb number. I forgot what it was, but I was way down in the queue, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go head out and do what I need to do. So I made a visit to some family. I grabbed some groceries. I did some stuff with the car, came back, and I still had an hour to go. So no issue for me there. But the interesting thing is, we're going from that limited kind of release to now this much, bigger release. If this is going to go to, let's assume 200,000 people, I don't know if they've released the numbers of the pre-orders, but that gets that many more people into the ecosystem to help that really wanted to get involved. But also, we're talking about a $9 pack. I think you showed on your your channel the other day, you pulled a $9 pack. You had 3 amazing cards worth about $1,000, right?
I was stoked, man. Like it was like too excited for words when I opened it. Like first card out of the chute is the LeBron No Look 3. I was honestly thinking about buying it, and like it was one of those in that time period where we were in this bull run, and it was like, okay, it's at 200, like I'll see if it stays like below, and maybe I'll pop it, and the next thing you know, it's 400, 800. You're just like, oh man, I totally missed my opportunity, and then whack, there it is in a $9 pack. So like hugely excited to drop the LeBron No Look 3. It's like one of those iconic moments, I think, that like forever will live in my collection. And then to, add a Jimmy Butler jump shot and a Steph Curry sick behind the back assist was really cool. Like both of those moments have like special value for me. Like no way are those moments leaving my collection.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler's a scrapper. As a C's fan, he kind of, I respect him, but he definitely gets on my nerves. But that was a sick
grinder.
He is. But that just goes to show for all the people talking about, they want to get involved, but some people say they think they're late to the party. Okay. You guys are not late. And we're talking about flipping a $9 pack, and it's, hundreds of dollars immediate return if you wanted to, because what makes more sense, probably not financial advice, is to hold on to this early stuff, because it's just going to continue to, grow in value as series beyond this have bigger circulation, and they're going to have higher counts for each of the types of cards that they put out. But that happened. They also the week before that announced that the Series 2 common cards will become limited edition, right? Because they were going to go forward with higher circulation counts. I think they announced some new run it back moments with some new players, right? That was pretty cool. And you had this big boom in the valuation where things just started just like for the cryptocurrency equivalent, mooning is what they would call it, right? Like it was just going up parabolically. And I think, prices got a little euphoric at one point, and people were looking at the market thinking it wouldn't come down. It came down some. And for some people that don't have any exposure to crypto, it was crazy to them, right? They're like, wow, it just had like a 20, 30% drop. This was after a few 100% climb, very quickly. And so, that stabilized shortly afterwards. It's fluctuated up and down a little bit since, but that's normal for a market cycle of anything like this.
I'll say this, Nytmare. Like at one point, I was looking at like over a 4,000% ROI. That's not normal, right? Like I think that's good justification to like really lose your mind over like how euphoric this market can be. I think that sort of level of ROI may not be found again. But the utility of these moments, I think, is where people are going to look to next, right? Like you have these moments that are at a verifiable scarcity. What can I do with them in the short term and long term for where these moments might give me value? And I think Swish is absolutely the place to kind of start, because right away we're in week 8. And for me, I've chosen 5 moments that I think are absolutely going to win me some whale token. And whale token, I don't know if you've seen, is already at $23 a token. Like I really hope that my selections were great, because I think that $23 price point is really conservative to what it might be at the end of the week.
Yeah, the prize allocation is no joke. So
no joke.
It's definitely worthwhile for people to get involved, and we'll go through some tips and tricks if you're not familiar with fantasy and you're wondering how to leverage your collection to the best of your ability to try to have a run at this weekly. By the way, I was surprised at the payout for the top 10, all of them being pretty generous, right? The prize pool for every placement was great. There was nothing that you would say this wouldn't be worth my while to play. So it definitely behooves anyone to pay attention and get a little grounded in how to do fantasy. But one thing I want to say about the value is a lot of the value fluctuated, but some of the top tier cards held it very well.
Yep.
The vault for us, quickly catapulted to 50 plus million, and it's vacillated a little bit. It's gone up in the 70s, came back down, but it's stayed there since. So there's a philosophy that Whale Shark has of go for the most scarce, rarest possible that you can, because that's what's going to be the most likely to retain value. And the thing with Top Shot, and I'm sure you've done this, you can get cards, and when it's opportunistic, you could then cash that out and try to build up a little something to go get that next level card that you want, right? So a lot of people have kind of transitioned from some of these lower tiered into the next tier that they wanted and so on, and built up some really nice cards.
I love the fact that as a collector, your opportunities are endless to try to kind of develop your own strategy, right? I feel like there are some people who are like, oh, maybe you're a Boston Celtics fan, Nytmare, and I'm just going to collect Boston Celtic players or moments. And I might kind of save up or strategize my flipping so that I can score like an awesome Jason Tatum deck the hoops 3-pointer, like awesome moment if you're a Celtics guy, right? But maybe you're more like a Swish general manager, and you want to be able to collect the best moments that are going to give you the best opportunity to develop the best lineup. Or maybe you're a guy that says, I want to get just the best players and I want to have their best moments. And you kind of just conduct your transactions or the way that you conduct your collection as follows. And the fact that you can sell, buy, and right away is so very intriguing towards kind of like the way you formulate your strategy.
Yeah, and I'm probably the second. I'm the latter of the bunch, right? So I was not one of these people that was in early on Top Shot like you. I'm more of a conservative investor in general, and some people, I guess the equivalency I could kind of draw is some people like to trade a breakout, right? If you're looking at something and you think, hey, this is about to blow up, let me get in now, so I'm at the bottom when it does. I'm the person that says, okay, let me see if this has legs, right? Let me see it blow up, come back down, and if it pops back up again, let me trade the retest. So I kind of sat just watching it and saying, it's cool. I love basketball, but I'm not sure I want to get in. Number one, that was a mistake, right? Obviously, because I have friends that are sitting on dumb money right now because they got in early. But that being said, what I do like to do is I said, okay, I want to play in this fantasy league. Let me jump in here with the mindset of a general manager, right? I have X amount of dollars. I'm not trying to buy like the most pristine card. What I'm trying to do is I take my budget hey, I want someone to fill this role, that role, this role, that role, and make a little team, little squad. And so I did that, bought a couple of packs for $9 here or there, got some lucky draws, got some bums, quite honestly, that the value just went crazy one time, right? And I was able to cash those in and take that money and reinvest it into other players.
Yep.
And so on, right? And so, my objective really is the fantasy league now. But that being said, what I put in has probably gone up, 10%, 1,000%. 1,000% before last night, because I had to make a buy for this week. So we'll get to that. But yeah, you're talking about utility, and you're right. Like Top Shot's making hardcore, right? They're making a mobile game that you'll be able to use these moments in, and the Swish Fantasy League that we have here is super awesome. So fantasy guys can be a pain in the ass, quite honestly. Like if traditional fantasy, not most people, but a lot of people like to play fantasy football. You know why? You set it at the end of the week and you're good, right? You look at it once, the handful of games is easier to follow. Other sports like basketball, baseball, there's so many games and stats and things you need to be aware about for the lineups that it can be really cumbersome. Swish League makes it simple. You need to just 5 players, right? And each one only represents one stat. Only one stat. So it's really easy to look and say, I want this player for scoring 2-pointers, this player for scoring 3-pointers, and so on. And so if you get the idea of how you would make that decision, it's really a simple process to look at once a week and then set it and go. So, I think that Nonstop Theo, shout out to Theo for putting this together. He really thought about being inclusive and letting everybody play. And you don't need an expensive portfolio. It's not like if you have a cosmic, you score more points than you have a base card. It's essentially, if you have the player and he's executing that particular moment, whether it's an assist or a block or whatever, you can get the points. So
absolutely. What I would add to that is that Swish does 2 things that I really love that kind of almost brings it closer to the platform of Top Shot. First one is what you just said. Like, you don't need a cosmic card. That cosmic card isn't going to give you any special value. And as someone who's a small market club owner like myself, like really intrigued by that. Like, I don't need to out-purchase someone in order to have a chance. But the more important thing I think is that this game lays true to the integrity of the NBA Top Shot platform. Right? Like, if you have a dunk Zion card, that card only gets played towards the 2-point category, right? So like, he dunks, that's a 2-point option. For the Swish Fantasy Week, every 2-point basket that Zion has will go towards my weekly total. You can kind of see there on the screen what plays lay for different categories, but you get 2 2-point options, 1 3-point option, 1 assist option, and then 1 defensive wizard. And I really like the fact that Nonstop Theo took kind of like the moment that you get in your collection and transfers that towards points for your Swish fantasy team for the week.
Yeah, and he probably made it so simple. That's why I made a rookie mistake that I'll have to share on what I did for last week on the platform. But it was so simple and easy that I messed up by trying to overcomplicate it. And I'll tell you what I did. I was trying to pick my first lineup, and I said, okay, this is pretty straightforward, right? I need 2 guys that mostly shoot layups. They're not 3-point shooters, right? I need 1 guy that's an absolute sniper, right? Steph Curry. If you don't have Steph Curry, get a Steph Curry, right?
Need it now.
And assist, so someone dishing dimes. And for defense, I read it quickly and said, okay, block steals. Let me take the stats, extrapolate it in Excel, and combine total blocks and steals and divide it by games. No, it's blocks or steals, guys.
Correct.
Don't make the same mistake I did. But it ends up working out okay. I ended up doing all right. And we'll take a look at how the first week in the Whale League ended up. And there was some kind of issue with the API feed, I think, from Top Shot. So all I have is this screenshot of the top finishers, which is unfortunate because I had some people I definitely wanted to bust their chops, but I don't know how bad they finished. How did you know how you did?
I was below the top 50%. For someone who's played it every single week, very embarrassed.
So some interesting things about the winners, and guys, if here are some basic things when it comes to your 2-point players. Giannis and Zion are king. They don't like to shoot a lot of threes. They're going to be by the basket scoring a lot of points for their team. So those are kind of must-haves, or you'd ideally like to have them if you can get a hold of them, right? And there are some other players that you could use. I use Joker, right? Because I'm a fan of Joker, and he was putting up monster numbers the week prior. And of course he became, a better teammate when I picked him and distributed the ball, but whatever. And some people, obviously in second place here, we have a LeBron, but look at here in the 3-point column. It's almost universally Steph Curry, except for one guy, Nytmare, me. I picked Damian Lillard. And so one of my rookie mistakes I want to point out to you guys is, the process here is to take a look at the number of games people are playing throughout the week. And I had done that, but for whatever reason, I didn't catch that Dame had one less game than Steph. And the only reason it worked out for me is Steph did not play because he got sick or didn't feel well, and he sat for a game. If that didn't happen, I would have been, who knows, bottom rung, not doing too well. So rookie mistake there. But Trae Young consistently this week in the assist column, and then the blocks steal, the defensive wizard. Oh, that's a tricky. That's the trickiest one, I think, for people to pull and figure out what they want to use.
So for me, when I first kind of got immersed into the space, at the time, Rudy Gobert was by far the best defensive wizard out there. But you learn that, those block parties sometimes don't happen all the time. I think Rudy's leading the league somewhere around 4 to 5 a game. And he's certainly posted a couple of goose eggs. So that means that, there may be a 10 block game in there, but Chris, is it Boucher or Boucher? I don't know how to pronounce that.
No, I'm not sure either.
He's a hot name. I started Nerlens Noel this past week as he kind of got elevated into the starting lineup. Mitchell, I believe, had been starting at center for the Knickerbockers, and he got shelved for 3 to 4 weeks. So that was kind of like a hot name. The Fred VanVleet steal is an interesting moment. That's an S1 moment that's like not too pricey. But yeah, man, like I think this space is like definitely developing, and to like put your moments to work, knowing that you bought that moment, you acquired that moment somehow, and putting it to work. I think that's the part that I love the most about it.
Yeah, and I also started Nerlens. I got him going again this week. And the thing was, in the weeks prior to him getting more minutes because of the injury, he was getting 3 or 4 blocks a game. He was lighting it up. And now, for whatever reason, I don't know if he's tired running up and down the court, but now it's kind of calmed down a little bit. But like you said, it's hard to find consistency there. I mean, I don't even know. I don't think there's a Miles Turner block.
That's interesting. There's a lot of defensive wizard moments that have yet to be made.
Right. That'll be a hot item for people that play fantasy for sure. But, shout out to the people from the Discord and from our community who had a great showing here. True Test coming in at number 1. Awesome job. I actually had to take a look because I was a little salty. I was like, let me see if this is someone that just came over from Swish like the past week. And True Test is actually an OG. True Test has been in our Discord since like September. So True Test, shout out to you. Nice job. Now Mies, who is Walt Mester here, they came in second, and they actually did come over recently than you. So shout out to you. Don't mind my salt. I'll cry a little bit, but I'll be okay. I somehow managed to fall into third thanks to the Steph Curry sit game. So that worked out. And then, I know a lot of people were excited to be on the top 10. Fianaro had said something. Chicago Spartans always in there popping off, Chile. So shout out to all the finishers this week. And I know that there's a lot more people that are continuing to come on the Discord, signing up for Dolphin just to play. So the competition is going to get more fierce. I'm glad I got my third while I had the chance.
Well, not only that, but it's going to be more and more expensive to ultimately get these opportunities, right? Like when I jumped into Whale League, I had to acquire those 16 tokens. And, I think total, like at the time it was like $14.50 a token. So it's like $250 to get in. But now at $23 a token, like you're going to spend a little bit more money to get in on this league. That all being said, totally worth it, given the fact that there's $1,000 worth of whale token up for grabs every week.
Yeah, well, and whale is no, not financial advice, but I would say whale is certainly something that you're not losing out by holding on to it, right?
No,
you're at home and you're in the right place if you're doing that. But just real quick, I wanted to talk, and I know you highlighted this in your video too, but if you were going to make this decision with your collection, and I'm talking to the viewers that are checking this out, some of the key things you would do is you would look at a stats website and try to look at who would be hot for the particular thing you're looking at. So for example, you need 2 players that are going to be in the 2-point column. Every time they score a 2-pointer, you get points. So you go to a stats website, you take a look at that particular statistic. Right here, we're looking at 2-pointers, ranking it down, and you can see who the top players are. Now you can take a look at specific time frames here. And so, looking at it from the start of the season, that's a lot of data. What I like to do is look at who's hot right now. So I'll look recently, right? So the past week, who's kind of lit it up. And you got to understand there can be some nuance here with injury, with people having sat and different things. But, look, Bradley Beal, was crushing it. Giannis, Zion doing well. And if I take a look at a little bit of an extended period, and this is kind of my sweet spot I like to look at is 15 days, and then again, rank it by 2-pointers. You can see, who was really contributing. So, you could see the candidates that would be good. So then you could cross-reference what you have, and you could say, hey, I have one of these guys that are in the top whatever, and I think that they'd be a good candidate. And then always take a look at the news on the player, because you may see they say, hey, he's going to be sitting out because he's injured, or they're resting him before the All-Star game and things like that. So in general, that's a good place to start. Take a look at the player versus the stat. So for example, assist, you do the same thing over here. Take a look. And you can see who was candidates. And in some places, you may want to go make an investment. You may say, man, I have no one that's even anywhere near there. Maybe I should buy a player. And that's where the GM thing comes in, right? You start thinking, hey, what's worth it to me? Do I just want to flip something? Do I want to put in money? Do I want to get the cheapest option possible, which quite honestly is what I did with Nerlens Noel, but it ended up working out because someone got injured. But I was like, hey, he's $8 and he could get some blocks for me, right? So at the time, it worked out. So that's usually where you start. And then the second important thing from my perspective is how many games are being played.
Huge.
So you want to pull up a scheduling grid, and you can Google it. There's a million different formats, and find one that is easy for you to read. I like this one because they color coded it for me and I'm lazy. But basically you look at the week and make sure it starts on the time period that you need. And this one does, because our weeks start Monday through Sunday. So this tells me on the week of Monday, March 1st, how many games each team is playing. So if I wanted to totally optimize how many points I would get, I would want to make sure I play players from teams that have the most games. This is a weird week because we're heading into the All-Star game, so it means the week's shorter, there's less games. But if you just took a look at this chart, you would see, okay, the darker, the worse it is. Well, the more blue it is, the worse. It means they have less games, right? So I have light blue, light blue. Okay, here I have a white. Denver has 3 games this week. Okay. Indiana, 3 games this week.
Yep.
New Orleans, Portland, Seattle. So exactly. So you're looking at those types of players to get into your lineup. And in my lineup last week, I had Giannis running, and I'm like, man, I don't have a Zion. Zion has 3 games this week. He's going to put up monster numbers. I have to get a Zion. Yep. If I am going to be viable in fantasy, I have to get a Zion. So I took some of my, lesser or scrubby, common moments that I didn't really want to hold on to, not for fantasy utility and not for value for collecting. And I put those on the market, got the money, took that money and bought me a Zion, which has since gone down a little bit, but it's Zion. I'm confident that will appreciate over time. Because he is an absolute beast. You're talking about the number 1 or number 2 contributor, right, in that category. So that's an important factor when you go choosing your players for the week for fantasy.
The thing that's interesting for me, Nytmare, is that obviously, like when you look at the Pelicans or the Trailblazers or even the Nuggets, like Joker, Lillard, and Zion come to mind as like absolute guys, right? But the Pacers have 3 games, and I think who else has 3 games? The Spurs have 3 games. And so when I was kind of looking at the spread for this week, I said, okay, who are the best guys that I want to roll out? Joker and Zion were, obvious ones to kind of think about. But then, for my team, I said, like Sabonis is getting a lot of looks inside. A lot of the offense is flowing through him. Like the idea of playing him with Zion. Like the idea of rolling out Lillard with the assists. And then, looking at my collection, I wasn't prepared as a general manager to start selling off some other pieces to maybe maximize on the pinballs in the pinball machine, as I like to call it. And I was willing to kind of roll the dice with Curry and Gobert only getting 2 games that week. I think as we move forward, like, and those whale tokens are like even more and more hard to come by, I might say, you know what, like I'm going to, put my, say, Rudy Gobert on the market, get him out, and maybe roll out a guy like maybe Keldon Johnson-Steele if that moment is available, and get those 3 games out of the Spurs so that my lineup is maximized. And then next week, hopefully I can pick up Gobert. That comes with a certain amount of risk that maybe you lose some money on the market, like you said for yourself, that you bought a Zion and now it's kind of come down. But all of that subtraction to your collection portfolio will get erased as long as you win, right? So I like this new spin on kind of how you handle your collection. And I think as we move forward, like more and more people are going to do this, and the market value will follow with some of the moments on the market.
I agree 100%. And just so I'm not misrepresenting what I had to sacrifice to get my Zion, I think the most valuable card that I put on the market was Taco Fall. Right.
Okay.
So a bunch, but I do love Taco because I'm a Celtics.
Yeah, and tomorrow's Taco Tuesday, man. You might want to pick him back up.
Tacos, if you don't know, he's like 9 feet tall. He's a huge fan favorite in Boston, but he just gets in the game for like 5 minutes as a mascot, essentially. But shout out to Taco if you do check it out, Taco. We love you. So here's what I ended up rolling out from my lineup.
Okay.
So Joker, the new Zion is in there. Nerlens Noel, and then I had, like you said, I wasn't in position to go grab someone. At least I didn't see anyone that I wanted to make the investment on that was on the teams that were playing more games to buy a new assist moment. So it really came down to what I had was Trae Young and Chris Paul. And so, guys, like here's an example of I'm not going to maximize it by buying someone new at this point. So I took a look at the assists. And who was doing what at this point in time. I love Trae Young, but I think they have some injuries on their team, and he's kind of been playing a bigger role in scoring right now. So if I look at the game log, and this is something you guys should do, take a look at the game log and see how, recently things have been affecting him. He was on a tear right here, and he kind of fell off a little bit. Does that mean he'll stay below 10? No. But that being said, part of this is guesswork, right? We do the best that we can based on some different factors and take a gamble on what we think could happen. Now, Chris Paul is kind of the inverse of that, right? So Chris Paul has lit it up over the past few games, right? So his teammates obviously have been shooting better. Does that mean it'll hold up? No. But that was kind of my logic in it. And sometimes you look at the game log to have an idea of what's going on and making those tough decisions.
So Nytmare, something that I've been toying with as I'm like trying to figure this out, I think you're very right in suggesting that there's no streamlined way to like kind of calculate the best lineup. But something I've been doing has been looking at the average totals for the categories that matter and trying to see if there's an uptick or a downtick in those average moments. So if you were to take that Chris Paul assist, right?
Yep.
And look at his season average of assists and then compare that to a 30, 15, or 7. I maybe don't do too much work. Maybe just stay at 15 or 7. I think what you'll find is that Chris Paul is dishing it out more as of late. Part of the reason for that is that his minutes have gone up as of late. He had been kind of hurt as an older player. They're managing his minutes. And so that's something to consider. Like, is this guy trending up or down in that particular category? Is there another reason why that's happening? And cross-referencing that sort of understanding to the games that are happening, right? Like, so let's say you take that Chris Paul assist, right? And that his minutes have been, kind of all over the place. And then you see that, maybe the Suns play an extra game this week, but that happens in a back-to-back. And so maybe the minutes that he would be playing in the game wouldn't be necessarily valuable compared to that extra game that he might have. Say like a Lillard. So, all of that stuff, you have to kind of think about as a general manager. And the more that you hold a moment, the more likely it is that you're going to have a better finger on the pulse of, where that situation might lie. Like, I know that Sabonis was not selected initially as an all-star. And I thought that with 3 games this week, he was going to be pissed off and just like try to notch the most amount of points, like the best performances, because he wasn't an all-star. Now, of course, a day after I made that selection, he gets brought in as a reserve. So, that's kind of part of the guesswork. But I love just the idea of trying to kind of put together different strategies in your head, because there's now a lot of people in this, and the person who wins clearly had the best strategy, or had the strategy that worked out the best. So not only do you get that reward, but you also get to come home thinking like, my strategy was the freaking best, and like I beat these 73 people with my best strategy. And the fact that there isn't like necessarily the best or formulation on how to arrive there is that opportunity of alpha, like that I think is the most interesting part of this.
Yeah, by the same token, right? Like, a lot of guys don't get this misconstrued. This is kind of in the weeds because we dig basketball and win there, but really you could make some top level decisions, trot your lineup up out there and crush everyone. Right. But, this is part of the fun aspect. If you enjoy basketball, you could do this. So like for me, I know that Trae Young was dealing with that abductor injury a little bit, and that was slowing him down some. And he's about to play a back-to-back, whereas Chris Paul's games are spread out across with a gap between. Right. So like you said, you take a look at what you're doing and going into it. Does it mean it's right? No. But, it gave me what I think is possibly an edge. And everybody thinks about that. It goes in, and that's part of the fun about it, right? You could be like, hey, I just rolled the dice and picked these random moments that I want, and that'd be cool. But
I'm glad you said that, because I definitely created some paralysis by analysis. I mean, I started for the past 4 weeks guys who got injured because I thought that maybe there was a different way that they might have created some value, and so I think you don't need to have a great strategy to win in this game. It almost might be better just to roll out like the most obvious choices and see where the chips lie. Absolutely, there's an opportunity just to kind of take the moments that you have and roll them out and see how they do. That might be the best strategy for you. So definitely, like, your knowledge base does not prohibit you from being an impact player in this space.
Yep. If you guys just take a look at, getting someone that you think can accomplish the goal, where the score 2-pointers or whatever, and they have a good number of games. Don't be like me. Pick the one guy that has, one less than everyone else. Then you should be good. And you have just as much chance as all of us. Oftentimes we'll overanalyze, right? And then, and then us Stats Geek like to, talk about it for the next week. And that's part of the equipment. I almost mentioned earlier when we talked about that, traditional fantasy can be a little crazy. I remember a friend of mine when I was in like junior high school, he came to me and my buddy, because we were into sports, and he's like, hey, you guys want to play fantasy baseball? We were like, what? We weren't that familiar with it at the time. We're like, what does it entail? So he told us, and then he would come in the morning in the cafeteria and sit down with the newspaper and kind of transcribe the stats and put it on. I was like, man, I like it in concept, but that's a lot of work for me to try to, stay involved with. I don't know if I'd be able to do it, and this, like, the beauty of Top Shot and the Swish League is it makes it fun and takes a lot of the effort out of it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, something that maybe a person who isn't involved in fantasy might not know is that in fantasy basketball, it's very common that the last spot on your roster is a spot that is called a streaming option, meaning that it's every single day you'll pick up a different player who has a game that week just to register a game played in some stats for that particular day. And if you add them up over the course of the week, they can make a difference. That's just annoying to follow and like a lot of work to kind of just stay on top of. Swish doesn't do that. You set your lineup, you follow it, and that's kind of it. And you can kind of just know, saying that, you put your time in to figure out however which way you want to move your lineup, and that's it. Love that aspect about it. Definitely closer to NFL than it is to MLB or NBA.
Right. And at the same time, you're accumulating value and growing in value in your collection. So like there's so much to enjoy about this whole process. It gets me more hype than traditional fantasy sports. I want to start making NBA Jam references and saying, boom shakalaka or something. I need to get a soundboard. I need a soundboard for the show and just start dropping it all the time. But Guster, I appreciate you coming on. I wanted to put you on the hot seat with a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
So, you have your podcast where you talk about Top Shot exclusively, and people that are thirsty for knowledge can definitely check that out. But before we send them over there, we got to learn more about you. So I'm going to ask you some questions, pretty rapid fire.
Okay.
And, you let me know, what you think of each of them. So, favorite NBA team?
Boston Celtics.
You're patronizing me now?
No. I grew up just north of Boston. So
did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Lack of an accent there. How long have you been gone?
I bounced around. My parents are not from the area, so
okay.
They were transplants, and I've bounced around the country myself a little bit.
Okay.
I currently live in Connecticut, so still close enough. I'm really hoping that when this pandemic thing kind of goes out of style, I can head up to the Madison Square Garden for a game. I haven't been there. I feel like that's like an iconic place to see a basketball game.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be cool. But we're a long way from that. I'm still jonesing. My quick sob story about the pandemic. I played basketball for a long time. So varsity captain, played a little bit in college, blah, blah, blah. For me, basketball was cathartic, right? I grab my ball and go out, and it would just be part of what, would make me tick. And for years and years afterwards, played pickup leagues. I fell off for a little bit. I picked up mixed martial arts.
Okay.
So I was training fighting for some time, and it was funny. My girlfriend at the time would be like, "Can you just stick to fighting? Because you get injured in basketball way too much." So it just ended up being too much, right? Like I'm training Muay Thai, I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm doing like deadlifts and squats for my body staying in shape, and just recovery was so bad. I couldn't go run around the basketball court. So I kind of fell off for, I want to say 5-10 years. I just didn't do it. And then this past year, buddies of mine, put the band back together. They're like, "We're joining this men's league. You're coming." I'm like, "Guys, nice. I can't." So next thing I play, I suck. Like I'm putting up 2-4 points a game. It's embarrassing when you can't live up to your old standards, right? So I just started going to the local Y, working hard. There's like 12-year-olds Euro stepping past me and pulling up from like way beyond the arc. And here I am with a Kevin McHale, old man post game. So I worked hard in the gym, got some game back. Next thing you know, we're in our men's league and we're making a run. I'm scoring 20 points a game. I'm chucking up threes. We make it to the playoffs. Championship game is going to be on that Monday. They shut everything down. Everything down. And since then, I've just been staring at my sneakers over here. I have the Dames camo edition, and they're just collecting dust. So looking forward to visiting some arenas and also getting back at the court myself. That's for sure.
Well, I was going to say, since you have that fighting background, you must be excited about the UFC that the Dapper Labs team is on working on their way on.
Absolutely. What I really hope, and I don't want to digress too much, is that they, how we do the run it back with hoops, they definitely have to do the legends when it comes to MMA. Because, in trying to be more of a purist sport, they let the marketing side fall to the wayside a little bit. When I say marketing, UFC does a great job marketing, but it's not the same as like WWE or Pride. They're not trying to build a superstar. People are talented and they amplify it and then they fall off. And that's the natural cycle of a fighter. But, some of those legacy guys will just be incredible cards. Like I can't, like a GSP, or getting a Fedor or whomever, a Wanderlei Silva. I'd be all over that. I'd be all
I'm
over
excited
that.
for like just capturing those moments, right? Like there's just a variety of different things they can do to tokenize these things, and I think those sorts of moments are going to have some like real cool value just by like remembering, what had happened.
Yeah, like the Pettis kick off the cage. Like there'd be some amazing stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to your point, Dapper Labs it's got these incredible licenses and this great infrastructure and backing that really allows them to do this and become well established. So, with that, I have confidence in the platform and the value of these cards and it moving forward. There's some things that come out now. Everybody's trying to launch an NFT nowadays, right? And so, not all NFTs are going to retain value over time. You have to be a bit selective. We're euphoric right now, and I think we're at the beginning of the cycle, but you got to be, careful what you choose. And certainly NBA Top Shot is going to be one of the ones that I would feel more confident in than not.
And to kind of give you more credence to that point, Nytmare, is that, something we discussed on our latest podcast with Benjamin is that all of these moments have a power filter embedded inside of the code of the blockchain. And so something that you don't see with this Chris Paul moment is that it has a power filter, meaning that it is going to be assessed a certain amount of power. What that power does, we don't really know. But what, those who have been close in the space and what Benjamin kind of illustrated a little bit to, what his inklings might be as to where that power lies is that it'll power the moments in the new hardcore application game that the teams are developing. And, it is Benjamin's position that with each moment, they'll be given a certain secret power to, lend more utility towards the game. So like what Ben's kind of thinking is that with this Ja Morant dunk, you roll Ja Morant in your team and you power Ja on your team with this dunk moment. And therefore Ja is going to be better than the average Ja at dunking or better than the average Ja at driving to the hoop and scoring. And it's, that sort of extra line of utility that you're going to start to see once hardcourt starts to come into effect. We don't know if that's, a certainty, but I think, as we progress in this space, that's something to keep your eye on is that when will we know more about the power filter and when will we know how that power filter transmits into utility?
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the target for that is mobile, which will just unlock so much because, that's where people would be playing on their phones and you just have a huge audience. And I don't even think we mentioned, you talk about being early in this thing. There were 200,000 people waiting in queue to buy some packs before. That's a fraction of the NBA, fan base, a tiny fraction, let alone the international base. So this thing has the potential to be super explosive. Ja Morant explosive. Ja's my guy. I love Ja, by the way. So, we digress, but good digressions. Your favorite college team?
Favorite college team. So growing up, I loved Duke. And then my best friend kind of jumped on the Duke bandwagon, and then I flipped over to Tar Heels just to piss him off. It was tough finding a college around New England that was relevant in hoops. Right, But Boston College, I think, will be the favorite hometown team. The Eagles, there was that team that made a run to the Sweet 16. It was like Sean Marshall, Jared Dudley, and then there was the big guy who played for the Nets for a little. I think it was Williams, maybe Sean Williams.
Yep.
Loved that team. There was another kind of shorter post player that was really had some good finesse. He played for the Timberwolves. I can't think of his name offhand. It's going to bug me, but Boston College for sure.
Very cool. Favorite player?
So, I love the Giannis moment that I snagged. At one point I had 3 or 4 of his moments. But I actually have developed quite the affinity for Ja Morant, and I'm going to be looking to acquire some more Ja Morant moments.
Good answer. Good answer. What about legacy player, all time?
Okay, so this is where it gets kind of cool. I have some family from Argentina, and I grew up loving Manu Ginobili. So that's kind of my guy. And another kind of run it back moment I'm trying to acquire is the Manu Ginobili moment.
Very cool. How is your game?
My game out of a 10-point scale is conservatively, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, like a solid 3.5. I have great hustle, low skill.
I take you as the kind of guy that would injure someone else driving to the lane. Like you throw some elbows in there.
I'm not someone that's going to allow you to score. Like just because you've done the work doesn't mean I'm going to allow you to score.
Will you wear that hat on the court too?
It'll get a little sweaty, so I'll probably like flip over to like just a Converse white headband. But yeah, not a hat playing guy.
Okay. Are you a sneakerhead, or if not, what are your favorite kicks?
I have a pair of beige Vans that I love wearing. So, that kind of speaks to my sneakerhead game. Not a sneakerhead guy. You can catch me in sandals in the summer and bare feet on the beach.
Yeah, and in true New England style, hopefully not socks with sandals.
Oh, absolutely socks with sandals. No. Be like a white tuber and Jesus walker. Like that's a horrific look.
Oh man, you are from here. All right. Choice. If you had your choice, warm up music. Get you pumped up.
This is where I get even stranger. I kind of like listening to country music as a warm up. If there's competition, I'm already naturally juiced. If anything, I need to tone myself down. Less is more. And Running Out of Moonlight by Randy Houser is like my jam.
I like that. Get the focus because you're already juiced. Guilty pleasure food.
Guilty pleasure food. Love buffalo chicken. So anything buffalo chicken, like any time of day is where I'm at. But I love to mix in cinnamon rolls in the morning. I feel like crap afterwards, but that's it.
I'm with you there. I like these choices. Underrated moments right now you think that might be good opportunities?
So I picked up a few the other day. Let me just quickly cross-reference my collection here. I picked up a Taco Fall early, and I love that moment. Really love the no-look LeBron 3, the assist behind the back Steph Curry. Those two moments I picked up in that pack, so maybe there's a certain affinity for those. But really the moment that I actually kind of secretly love is the Julius Randle Cool Cat. I find Julius to be a guy that has struggled to find his way in the league. And he is a guy that I think has found a home with the Knicks, and they're building something over there. And Julius Randle is one of my kind of hot and up and coming players. And I love that kind of, he scoots by the defender there and then slams it on the other side of the rim. Love this moment.
I actually got this moment in the Cool Cats drop, and I actually had to sell it. So I'm pretty sad watching this highlight right now, but we won't linger there too long. How did you come across and get involved in Top Shot? What brought you to it?
Oh man, just like everybody, the pandemic was tough, right? You're sitting at home, whatever your normal routine or whatever was, totally gets upended. And in that time period, I started to, learn and research about Bitcoin. And I think for me, that rabbit hole got towards what is the history of money? And don't claim to be an expert or even care to dive into that, but in that sort of knowledge quest, I guess you could call it, I found this Top Shot idea in early October, and my first thought was I hate the name Top Shot. Crypto ball makes so much more sense to me, but B, it was just I don't know if I would really pay money for YouTube clips, right? And what I learned between October and the end of December is that it's not necessarily, what's in front of you or this kind of intangible source of ownership, but it is what it represents, what it means for the future. And the fact that these can be ideas of tokenized fandom, or that, you can kind of prove your worth as a fan with your collection, and that you can treat it as like a stock market for NBA players, is when I got really excited about it. And once I kind of made that connection right at the turn of the new year, I started buying, not heavily. I didn't only put in about $1,000 between in the first couple of weeks of January. I found it to be like a venture where I wasn't prepared to lose money that I couldn't stomach losing. And, every single day that I've been following it, I've been getting more and more bullish and closer to that point of like, all right, I'm ready to increase my risk tolerance. But yeah, man, like in that quest of figuring out Bitcoin is what led me here.
Awesome. And then from being involved in Top Shot, is that how you found your way to Whale?
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew nothing about Whale before Top Shot. I honestly was brought into Whale because of the Swish Fantasy Contest. I think I might have missed the first week. And, Nonstop Theo was like, dude, you got to get in on this week. It's like you do Swish Fantasy and you are going to love what this community is about. And so I'm like, okay. So I got the tokens I needed to participate in the week. And then every single day I try to, watch those videos you guys are preparing. I will be completely honest and say that I was super frustrated trying to figure out how to make a MetaMask and like get the money on there, navigating Uniswap. Like you have to go to CoinGecko first and all that stuff, and like it's not an easy process. But what I learned is that if it was easy, I would have been already behind. And I definitely think this is the way of the future. It's been an absolute blessing that NBA Top Shot brought me to Whale. And what I'm most excited about is that I know that Whale is going to bring me to something else that's going to be, just that same sort of concept, like brings me to something even cooler and more fascinating. I love the fact that you guys have put out so much material that's like readily available so that they don't have to go through maybe that same sort of frustration process. Like my MetaMask, like I maybe have spent like $100 worth of screwing up transactions. It's been awful, but in that process I've learned. And so like that for me was $100 well spent, because I now know how to, operate in this DeFi space.
I'm sorry for that $100. It could have been a few packs, but we are glad that you are here with us in Whale. And like you said, I think you saw that recently we've really ramped up the education efforts, not just putting out videos like we do every week with different segments with artists and talking about stuff, but really trying to bring it to a level where anyone can just jump in and quickly get acclimated. Because at one point I was like you, I'm like, just even grasping the language, I don't even know what you're referring to in some of these instances, right? Like I'm working on a video right now that is the equivalent of like NFTs for dummies, right? Here's a quick couple of minutes if I'm talking to a 7-year-old and trying to help them understand it. And we need that. So it's not so insular. So, but we're glad that you got here. And obviously we love having you in the community and popping on here. And what do you think is the coolest thing about this whole experience so far? Obviously you've made some investments that have panned out well with Top Shot. You're involved in cryptocurrency now and in NFTs. You're learning and being part of it. You have a podcast. You have a great lineup of guests all the time, and you're growing your presence. What so far? And I say so far because I think you're going to do a lot bigger things. But so far, what's been the coolest thing?
So I'll say the first thing has been like the people I've had come on the podcast have been just tremendous, from being almost new friends to like just picking their brain. Like I maybe didn't know how many more smarter, just beautiful people there are in the world and across the globe. Like if I look on, those who have listened to my podcast, like I think we're now like up to 40 countries or something. And, there's like one from Slovenia and then another one from Romania. And then, you have one from Iceland. And I think that you're seeing the first wave of people catch on to this space across the globe. Super cool that, we can connect with those sort of people. The second thing I think is that I've reconnected with some like long lost friends and some family members because this is such a new space. And it's like, you know, in the pandemic, it's hard to keep it in touch with people, you know, that you used to see every day. And sometimes you need a place or a topic to start from. And, you know, we're, you know, 15 months into this stupid pandemic or whatever it is. And it's hard to continue to find new stuff that we're excited about. Like you're just constantly getting, you know, how bad is this, or like the next, you know, horrible thing to happen. And here with Top Shot, with NFTs, with the whale community, all new stuff that I think is the wave of the future, but also that idea that it can be a win-win, right? So what I mean by that is like in fantasy sports, like if you pump out knowledge that might help you win in a week, you'd be incentivized not to share it, because if everybody knows what your winning strategy is, you're going to ultimately lose out on your work to produce that winning strategy. In Swish, or, you know, whether it be like a collection strategy, sharing your strategy is actually a win for you, because you're bringing more people into the space. You're bringing more people into the whale community that is boosting the assets that you already have, but also giving that opportunity to somebody else that are going to get that same opportunity, right? I love the win-win aspect of this. And for me, that's the most rewarding. Like I can go out and share my thoughts and know that it's actually in my best interest the same. I don't think you see that sort of dynamic in you know, the current institutions that we're all involved in. I mean, and I think that's going to be kind of the concept of the future. Like, how can we turn this into a win-win?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that's indicative of the NFT space as a whole now, too. Really, you go in our Discord and you have some significant movers and shakers, let alone, you know, a multimillionaire that makes himself accessible to everybody for questions about, you know, his hydration, right? Like, it's pretty ridiculous who we're rubbing shoulders with and what we're doing to kind of bring us all up together collectively. So beautiful answer. I love that. And as an aside, I did notice that you mentioned that you were working on proposing to your fiance. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I did notice that as well. And hopefully they allow these withdrawals so you can get the giant rock I know you're aiming for, right?
You know, it's one of those things that it's like super exciting time for me. You know, Top Shot has given me the opportunity for more capital, which, you know, obviously helps. And, you know, with more money comes more problems. And it's just like, oh man, sweetheart, like what moment are you worth, right? Like what moment am I going to see? Right? Like, oh my God.
Yeah, we'll tell our guy at DC, we probably got to edit that part out of the recording. So if it's found on YouTube by the missus, that part's not in there. So
that's all right. You can put it in there. She knows the skinny. She's been around me too long.
No, I'm just looking out, man. I'm just looking out. So we did have a couple questions. I'll see if there's anything here that we could give some insight for. How do we feel about people who aren't into basketball collecting Top Shots purely for monetary gain? Do we prefer that just collectors stick to the interests?
Yeah, like definitely the question that's most relevant right now, right? Because, you know, you're seeing some Twitter wars happen right now between people who are concerned about some of the underlying issues and some other people who are like OG believers. And, you know, there's really not a lot of room for common ground in this discussion. I think that for me, these assets have not clearly defined their utility. And for that reason, this is a problem. Like, and like the aftermath of that, like not defining your utility, you have people who are yelling and screaming it's the best thing ever, and other people saying that it's a total scam. You know, and like that's maybe for me, you know, my opinion only, the crux of a Ponzi scheme is that you haven't articulated what the utility is. And the utility is just somebody else buying it for a higher value and just like, you know, rotating through. I think that utility needs to be defined. Like, and maybe the hard court hasn't been, you know, developed to the point where they're ready to talk about it. But the fact that, you know, that it's just a collectible launches this discussion. And so I think that those who have trouble with the space will at least be able to make a more informed decision about this collectible when they know what the utility is, right? And I think that's kind of my comment from here. Like, I love the space. I also definitely know that if I didn't like purchase some like $1 to $2 moments that have really skyrocketed in value, I might have some similar concerns. Like, I'm not wild about the fact that like moment values are going all over the place. I'm also not wild about that like new information is constantly shifting the markets. I'm not ready to make a big investment into the space until I know how the utility is clearly defined.
Interesting. I agree with some of it, and some of it, I feel a little bit differently about, only in that I really think that to be healthy and continue to progress, I think you need both as part of the ecosystem. I think one without the other doesn't work. You need people that are going to make markets and bring interest, but by the same token, you need to continue to make things accessible for everybody so new people come on board. And they have to figure out how they're going to do that with the pack distribution, right? Obviously, having 2,500 pack drops with hundreds of thousands of people waiting isn't gonna work. In the NFT space, there's a similar discussion. Sometimes there's people that like to buy and flip, and some people don't like that. Some people say, hey, they're growing the value for the space as a whole. Some people say it's inflated. I think there needs to be a confluence of both happening, and some people address this. Some nifty drops will have these exclusive, super rare, mega expensive drops in an auction that will go through the roof, and they'll also have an relatively affordable open edition, right? So you are providing something that has scarcity and has, you can track the provenance of it, and you can make sure it has value, but also people that just want to be part of it and help grow the collective can get involved. And that's really, you need to have that entry level. If every card on the aftermarket is going to be hundreds of dollars, this project's not going to survive. They're going to need to make sure it continues to be viable for new people to dip their toe in the water before they want to swim.
So something I've always kind of shared about in my private conversations with people that are like my friends and families is that all of the issues right now that reside in Top Shot, I'm not ready to say this about NFTs as a whole, but just Top Shot, I see them all as short-term issues, right? Like this idea that of accessibility will absolutely get solved in time. Like, is there a short-term problem? 100%. I actually like the fact that they're keeping scarcity, at a premium, right? Like they're really prioritizing not printing off 1 million copies of moments because they want them to hold value. And I respect and like that. Understand that I'm speaking from that as a moment holder, but I think the issue that's at the crux of this is that we don't know how what the next wave of moments are going to be. Like, we don't know if the Russell Westbrook moment that I have in my collection that is the only assist on the market, don't know if another Russell Westbrook assist is coming, and there's really no way for me to know that. And just by that one moment being the only assist Russell Westbrook on the market, for me, that's huge value. Like, whether it be Swish or just having a unique assist, like I think there's plenty of value there. Again, a short-term issue, right? Like, all of these things get cleaned up in time. I think that when it comes to like those who are flipping or those who are holding, like, I think what comes out in the wash are that safe hands ultimately get moments and are willing to hold them for a longer piece of time. And, I think that gamble of holding for a long piece of time is kind of what people are kind of considering right now. Like, how many moments am I comfortable holding based off of kind of limited information of where this thing is headed?
You're right. I mean, that's why someone that's studied game theory a lot longer than I have, right, is in charge of finding that sweet spot where they can accomplish both. But like you said, with the track record and the partnerships and what these guys have been doing and have on deck, I think that they have the team in place that can pull it off. So I'm confident with what I have, and obviously you are too, and we'll continue to stay on top of it and probably have this discussion again down the road if you'll join us again sometime.
Absolutely. I think that's the most, I guess, comforting part of this is that I can say something, right? but you can verify my words by looking at my collection activity, and it's right there open for anybody, right? You can jump on CryptoSlam, find my collection activity, and you can see, have I been buying, have I been selling, and like, are the words that I'm saying matching? And what I'll just share is, like, for transparency's sake, is that I think it makes a lot of sense for me to shave a little bit off the top. And I'm at a point now that I'm not comfortable losing my entire collection value. I found the moments that I was willing to part with, and I found the moments that I'm willing to keep. I think someone can kind of derive where my strategy is, not from what I'm saying, but from, you know, what you're going to see on my collection verification, right? And you can find that on CryptoSlam. And I'm more than happy to kind of DM or talk to anybody about these sort of conversations, because I think it's super, super valuable to do so. You know, I think everybody should be conducting their collection to how they want to. And I don't think there's a wrong strategy right now. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I heard a laugh in the background. I'm going to take that as my cue that I've kept you too long this afternoon.
Oh my God, it's an hour and 15. Good Lord. Okay, yeah.
It has been. It has been. I know you have other things to do. So, Guster, thank you so much for joining us. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you for coming along for our very first premiere episode. This is the number 1 of whatever. This is the collector's edition right here. If you keep this recording and make it a moment, we're going to aim to do this once a week. So be sure to keep an eye out. Special thanks to Guster for chilling with us today. You can catch more of him to quench your thirst on more NBA Top Shot on the Burn podcast. And please remember, when it comes to NFTs and NBA Top Shot, you guys got next. Nytmare and Guster, and we are out.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Like, it's so much fun, and look forward to doing it again.
Take care.